Welcome to episode 141 of SDGC for Thursday, March 21st, 2019. If you're not aware, Super Deformed Gamecast meets right here every Thursday night at 9 p.m., where we discuss the latest gaming headlines with a wide variety of panel members and guests. We also do a whole bunch of other stuff as time allows, like a separate show about movies and television, community game streaming, and a mental health support show. If you've been along for the ride so far, welcome home. And if not, hey, feel free to stick around and maybe throw us a follow. Every single podcast is archived the next day on YouTube or on a podcast streaming service of your choice. And you can find us on, I just jumped ahead in a script.
It's fine.
Wow, John.
Just run with it.
John, perfect.
Buddy, just run with it. It's fine.
This
We're on
is
brand.
good.
No, Zach, this is fine. We're on brand. Keep going.
Perfect.
Totally.
Listen. So that's the script. We're out of the script. We have a guest tonight. Matt. Now, before I introduce the group, our guest, Matt, please save me from my fumbling hell.
No, I'm gonna let you go with this. I believe in you. This is fantastic. This is why.
Zach, you're the host, man. You're the host. I'm just a voice
right.
on the podcast.
All right, fine.
This is
Justin,
how you learn.
Justin, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you, Zach?
Zach is so uncomfortable.
So toasty here in hell. So toasty here in hell. Brandon, my shinobi, how are you?
Brandon's so embarrassed he can't even talk. He's like, "Fuck, why am I
Cool.
on this podcast?"
No, this is great. John, how's it going, big man?
Zach, trust me, this past 45 seconds has just been really.
It's
really
so
magical for
good.
me.
Yeah. What I like to do every Thursday is put my tummy in knots at 9 o'clock.
It's fine. It's fine.
I love
But you know what? Another couple months of introducing the show by yourself, and you're gonna get real used to it, dude. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of you. I'll
Thank
say
you.
that much. We're all proud of you. We really are.
Thank
Zach.
you.
We all love
So-
you.
Thank you for the support. So listen, we actually have topics. It's not just going to be me here fumbling. We're going to talk about Sekiro. We're going to talk about Google Stadia, and we're going to talk about that Nintendo Showcase. But first, we wanted to talk about NPD. The U.S. Sales chart came out earlier this week. We've got Matt here to kind of break it down with us. Matt, can you kind of give us a rundown? And also, for people who maybe are listening for the first time, can you kind of explain NPD and what they track and what they don't, in case they don't know?
It's all dead.
Oh man. Okay, yeah. So my name's Matt. I'm the U.S. video game industry analyst for the NPD Group, which is basically the I'll call it the premier sales tracking firm, particularly when it comes to full game sales, console sales, accessory sales. We try to be the data of currency, or the currency of the market, or something about currencies and being reliable. Which is about as good as your intro was. So that's kind of what we do.
God damn.
Which I'm on brand.
Thank you,
Matt brings it.
Anyways,
I love it.
God, Matt making it fucking spicy. Jesus Christ.
Anyways, no. So we track everything in the U.S. video game industry when it comes to hardware, software, accessories, and everything else. So, and this month was February, which just came out earlier this week. And some of the things that folks have kind of been expecting to happen have happened. So, for example, Nintendo Switch continued to do really well. The best-selling console in February continues to show growth. Those big Nintendo evergreens like Super Smash Brothers Ultimate. But the one game this month that really popped up that got a lot of reaction from the internet was Jump Force.
Huh.
Which was
who are okay? All right, Matt. I don't. So like, who actually didn't think this was gonna sell?
a lot of people apparently.
Really?
And a lot of people were using the word weebo, and I'm not really sure still
Weeaboo.
what that is.
It's weeaboo, I believe. is
Weeaboo.
the term.
Weeaboo.
Weeaboo. Do yourself a Matt.
Weebo.
Matt,
It's
you,
Weebo.
Matt,
It's not
you
that
haven't
hard.
Googled it, have you?
I try not to Google
Don't,
things.
just don't.
When it comes to anime, I just I know better.
It's
but anyways,
be very, very.
It was
careful.
the second best-selling game of the month. It was the third best launch ever from Bandai Namco ever. Like our tracking goes back
Wow.
to 1995.
Wow.
So when you look at the scale of success of Jump Force, it took a lot of people by surprise. And not to discount Anthem, of course, which came in at number one. and the second best launch ever for a BioWare developed game, which is only behind Mass Effect 3.
That's wild, especially given the response to the game.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows, right? Like expectations are all over the board, and how something performs relates to those expectations. And unfortunately, we can't give hard numbers. But overall, I was actually pretty surprised by how strong it was.
I know you said you can't give hard numbers for Anthem, but do you? If you don't have it off the top of your head, I won't blame you. But can you contextualize how well Mass Effect 3 sold in its first month? Do you know off the top of your head, or ballpark?
I believe it was the best-selling game. It launched in March of 2012. It's been a while. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's fine.
But when you compare it to like it was bigger than Mass Effect 2, Andromeda, Dragon Age, like those are some pretty big games.
Fucking Mass Effect 3 launched 9 fucking years ago, like or 7 years. I'm sorry, 7 years. Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Math is hard for you, John.
It fucking is, Zach. It's really fucking hard. Thank you.
But I think Anthem is really surprising. The discourse. I mean, it's really hard to judge that game's genuine perception with major audiences because so many of us are plugged into like video games Twitter, which definitely has some loud things to say about Anthem. But beyond Anthem, and we'll kind of see how those sales go even into March and see, because I think at the end of the month EA said they were hoping they would hit like 6 million in sales worldwide, I think, which is a big number. Considering it's a big one. But another story that kind of came out was how well Metro did, right?
Yeah. So Metro did well in a couple aspects. So it ranked number 8 in the month, which, some people have said was disappointing. But when you actually look at its performance against the prior games in the franchise, like it was almost 50% bigger than Metro Last Light and did set a new franchise launch month record. And that is, and when you look at the PC side, they've released some numbers around PC saying that their Last Light to Exodus comparison was even better on the PC side. Now there's lots of things involved there, and the comparison's kind of difficult to really parse out what it means. I mean, but overall, like really strong growth in the franchise, and of course, it doesn't take into account, if that game was dramatically more expensive to make or anything like that. But when you're just looking at pure sales volume, it did pretty darn well.
But the Metro series, and I'm not a huge, I've played a couple hours of Last Light, and that's about it. These are traditionally like a couple million sellers, right, Matt? Like these are more niche titles. Like these are, I don't know, like what's the sales history of these compared to something like Exodus?
So Metro games are in that track. Probably AA plus, now AAA, but developed in parts of the world where development costs are much more reasonable than in some other parts of the world. So there's some, they have the ability to make games that other folks in other territories might not be able to just because of cost. So like, and those quality scores have been improving over time, but it's not your big AAA Battlefield type blockbuster shooter. These are games that come out, sell pretty well for a long time. They're really smart at getting the word out through other subscription services or being parts of other programs to maintain momentum. And so, for this kind of game, these results are really good.
Right.
So what else was Zach? No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You were about to say something, please. I don't want to.
No. I mean, just one thing that I am interested to see. And I guess this is what everybody's kind of been talking about over the last week is how a game like Anthem, who was number 1 with NPD last month, carries in, and then how does it carry in right on the back of Division, which is the reception both critically and from the general audience is much higher. It's interesting to see how those things carry, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's going to be really wild. So when Division 2 comes out, which, I mean, if you look at just general sentiment of the internet, Division 2 seems to have a really strong group of folks saying how great it is. And, for loot shooters or loot-based shooters, these haven't come out as rapidly as we're seeing right now. And so, like, seeing how the player base reacts We also have Apex Legends out in the market. We still have Fortnite out in the market. Like how these games are going to compete for audience is going to be really interesting to watch. And because games like Destiny didn't really have super steep decay curves, they kind of maintained really strong sales for a long period of time. That's going to be what's really interesting to watch is how Anthem's going to perform months 2, 3, 4, how Division's going to go 2, 3, 4 when there's something like Apex Legends also in the market.
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting point, Matt. Like I when we learned that Borderlands 3 was going to be announced, like Borderlands 2 was one of my favorite games of the previous gen. Like I must have dropped 350 fucking hours into that game on Xbox 360. And Borderlands 2 came out in a time where there was kind of a dearth of looter shooters. Like it was Borderlands, and that was really it. Really, that's the only major loot shooter that I can think of during that time period. And ever since then, that game came out in 2012, and in the 7 years since, we've had Destiny 1, The Division, Destiny 2, The Division 2, we've got Anthem. That's 5 games right there. You've also got the emergence of the Battle Royale genre. You got Apex Legends, and Fortnite is still no slouch by any sense of the word. And now we've got Borderlands 3 coming out, or at least being announced at PAX East. Now, I guess my question for you, Matt, is, I had ruffled a few feathers on Twitter when I said that Borderlands 3 would be announced and nobody would care. I know that's
John.
I admit that that's hyperbole. People are going to care about Borderlands 3, but at the same time, Matt, what do you think? How a much more crowded playing field, a much more competitive genre. Do you think that's going to have any sort of negative effect on Borderlands 3, both from a hype perspective and a release perspective?
Really difficult to say considering all we know about the game is the name. And that brand does have significant cachet. But yeah, I don't know. We've seen games come into this crowded marketplace and do exceptionally well. I think the barrier for success is a lot higher than maybe it used to be. Either succeed in a huge way, or they really don't. We really don't have a lot of middling successes anymore. We either have big successes or games that aren't.
Right.
And so I think we're going to have to wait and see what Borderlands looks like, and whatever else is coming. There's all those rumors out there about another couple big games that people are hiding in their pockets for Q4,
right.
Because of how announced timings are the time between the announced timing and release is getting shrunken. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
Right, Justin, you look like you had a question, buddy.
Yes. I was just wondering if Matt could put into perspective a few things, maybe about Apex Legends. We've gotten a few stats about it. They said it generated 92 million in the first month, and that was before the Battle Pass launched. And that just launched this week on Tuesday. I just wanted to know if Matt could maybe put that into perspective and talk about how the market might be reacting to that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's those estimates are from Super Data, so they're estimates. I don't believe that came from Respawn or EA. But the player counts are what's really interesting there. The player count ramp. Apex Legends was able to achieve more players in 4 weeks than Fortnite got in 4 months. And that ramp continues to, basically that player count line graph goes up and to the right very sharply. And I think that's what everyone's going to be looking at. And, as we move forward, this has made a lot of noise in the publishing community. The idea of these kind of player counts and these kind of ramps and this kind of engagement, you're going to start seeing a lot of free-to-play games like these hitting the market out of the blue, going after a similar type strategy of grabbing influencers and trying to grab player count right out of the gates. I think we're going to start seeing this a lot more.
Right.
Isn't quite answering your question, but
no, that's great, because I wanted to ask about that announce it and then it's available to play that day, free to play kind of thing. So you touched on that, which is great. Thank you.
I've got a very quick question for
John,
Matt.
go ahead.
I was wondering, Matt, we've talked about games. Could you talk a little bit about the Switch? getting into
Yeah.
the kind of the hardware side of the things, because I know that Switch had a particularly good February, especially when Anyway, I'll let you get into it, man. Please go ahead.
Wait, are we good?
There we go.
We're live. We're
All
good.
right.
There
Okay,
we go.
we're
There we
alive.
go. Look
All
how
right.
sexy we look too.
We do look great. John, let's walk it back. Will you rephrase your question for Matt, just because I'm going to try to edit this to make it not garbage?
Okay, that's perfect. So Matt, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the economic modalities of the Southern colonies in the pre-revolutionary period, spanning from 1768 to 1774. I would give you. I want to give you my contention about it, but I want to hear your thought. What you have to say first.
Let me tell you about a little guy named George Washington.
No, Matt, if you could talk just a little bit about the hardware side, I would deeply appreciate that.
Sure. So, like you said, Switch did have a pretty good February. It's had a really good run, November through February, particularly like once Smash hit, it really kind of turbocharged Switch. And what we're seeing now is Nintendo is having really strong hardware success. Their sales in February for hardware were the highest for a month of February since 2011. So really at that heyday of the Wii and NDS. But what we're also seeing while the Switch is having all this success is that we're now really starting to see the PS4, Xbox One show that more late cycle, moderate declines as we kind of transition towards the end of the cycle for those boxes. And so what that means is that, this year is kind of trending just like I thought it would, where we're going to see Switch have, I think, pretty consistently year-on-year growth. PS4, X1 pretty consistently year-on-year moderate declines. Overall, things are trending just as they kind of should be. But yeah, I think you're going to see a lot of Nintendo Switch leading the market through the rest of this year.
So I have one more NPD question, unless anybody else has one. So I want to talk about kind of a juxtaposition we have on this month's trends, and then what it also means looking back at last year. So we've seen the best two selling games, Jump Force and Anthem, reviewed pretty iffy, but they're sold really well. And then another game that sold really or that reviewed really iffy, Crackdown, did not even make the list. And that is juxtaposed against previously when we would see games like Sea of Thieves, Forza, and State of Decay also hit the top of the charts, even in Game Pass. Do you think this is a case of bad word of mouth simply just hurt Crackdown out the gate? And there are also a lot of other games out?
So, all right.
Sorry, that was like a lot of setup.
No, it's a meaty question, Zach.
This is great. It's a topic that comes up a lot, and I see it on the forums. I see it on Twitter, where folks say that Game Pass hurt this game or Game Pass helped that game. I think that's a little bit it's probably not the right way to look at it. Like, Game Pass isn't a panacea for sales. Like, a game doesn't have Game Pass and sell better. I think what Game Pass does is amplify the virality and amplify messaging. So, for example, when Sea of Thieves, State of Decay came out, those games on Game Pass, the folks that are, influencers within their core group of friends and family play the game, say, hey, you guys should play this with me. And it caused sales what I think sales to increase over where they would have been otherwise. On the same token, if a game comes to Game Pass and it doesn't get positive virality or positive word of mouth, I think that amplifies the message the other direction. So I think it's something where Game Pass is like a megaphone of consumer sentiment in a lot of ways, particularly for the folks that do subscribe to these services, which are generally your more core gamer who has a lot of influence with friends and family. And so I don't think Game Pass itself helped or hurt. I think just Game Pass amplifying the message or the sentiment of the games is helping and hurting individual games.
Is it a little... Oh, go ahead, Justin.
Do you think maybe Microsoft kind of foresaw that kind of reaction to Crackdown? Because I saw more marketing for Crackdown 3 on Game Pass, and Game Pass is $2 right now, than I saw specifically for Crackdown. It seemed like it was being used more... That and Terry Crews were being used more as Game Pass ads than they were advertising the game itself.
I mean, I hate to speculate on the internal tactics or strategies or
sure.
what they were going for. But I mean, you're right. They did seem to make that messaging front and center of, you know, of the Game Pass messaging around the game. Maybe to push those Game Pass subs. I don't know. I think it probably worked, but I'm not certain. But unfortunately, yeah, when you don't see Crackdown 3 in the top 20 chart, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for that. Myriad reasons why things sell well or sell poorly. There's never one real answer to any of it.
Sure.
So Zach,
Sure.
I need to clear something up here.
Okay.
This is a thing we've never actually addressed on the show, and I think we need to address it now, not just for us, but for everybody in the chat as well.
Oh God.
It sounds like we're about to get a bullshit question.
No,
Go on,
yeah,
John.
this is gonna be bad.
No. Relax. Chill, babies. It's gonna be okay. This is an important question. So I'm dealing with a cold right now, and I just had to hold back a sneeze. So what is our sneezing policy? Do we mute mics?
Yeah,
Mute your mic.
Yeah.
Mute your mic.
Or
We ask you to
no.
mute your mic because
Mute?
of your keyboard.
Okay.
Like-
Okay, so here's the deal. Right? I would argue that to suppress my bodily functions would be it's beautiful, right? Like even the act of sneezing is beautiful because it makes us.
You
it
don't
reminds us
suppress.
that
You're
we're
not
alive.
suppressing shit. You're just muting your
John.
mic so nobody hears you
But
snot in their
people
ear.
are still going to see me
Jonathan.
sneeze on camera, and if there's no audio, it's going to. I feel like it's going to come across
John,
weird.
what about
No.
the people that listen at home? Like, what about the people that listen after the fact?
But
No,
no.
no,
It's a spice
it's-
of life, a surprise, and not
Jonathan.
Yes.
Have sympathy for Derek. Derek, our sweet boy, who is not on the show tonight, is the one who edits and puts our shows together and throws them up the next morning. Please do not make him edit that out. John,
I
mute
don't
your
think you should.
goddamn mic. We're moving on to our next
I
subject.
don't think you should.
We're gonna get to.
I don't
We
think you
will
should.
get to Google Stadia, but first, I want to briefly touch on Sekiro. Brandon, you have been playing it for a little bit. Can you give us a no spoiler or as light spoiler as you can? Kind of run us down on your initial hours with it.
Boy, would I love to. And
Okay.
yeah, I don't know what to talk. I'm just going to talk about mostly
Just
the
fucking
combat.
ramble about that's all I want you to do is just ramble about a Souls game, please, Brandon.
Okay, so all right, straight up, I'll just say that this is by far the most accessible of like the Miyazaki style games. Well, I don't know what to call them anymore. Souls-like games. They tutorialize quite a bit of it. Things are explained in detail. Items are explained. Mechanics are explained. They tell you exactly what everything is. In a way where, like Dark Souls and Demon Souls were just like letting you just like, figure shit out, like go die and figure shit out. Whereas Sekiro is just like, this does this does that. The tutorial is pretty lengthy. It takes 45 minutes.
Shit I like.
There's a
Wait,
lot
wait.
of
When you say 45 minutes
I'm getting
in the
excited.
tutorial, do you mean like this is a tutorial area? Or is it like, hey, you're going to stand in this courtyard for 45 minutes and someone's going to train you?
Oh no, it is absolutely a tutorial area. Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like the first level kind of
Exactly.
thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. I knew
like
there was
the-
kind of a dojo in the game, so I was like worried you were just going to be in a dojo for 45 minutes training with
Yes,
someone.
there is like a sparring area. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. So one thing I
no,
want
it's
to
cool.
ask you about is
Please
the
ask
locomotion.
questions, yeah.
So there's a lot of like the rope swinging and the speed here seem unlike any other thing we've seen from software in a long time,
Yeah.
right?
So there's plenty of like built-in grapple points through the levels. So you can't like grapple anywhere. You can't aim it, but it's just like you can, if you a tree, you'll see a green circle. You press the left bumper and you go flying up to it. But there's a lot of them, and they're all over the place. You can use them in the middle of combat. You can use it on enemies. Like I was fighting an ogre, and when he does it, he's a big ogre. When he does an attack and misses, he'll fall down on the ground, and it gives you a prompt to grapple him, which allows you to like pull yourself over to him in an advantageous position.
That's very realistic. Whenever I attack somebody in real life,
Yeah.
I miss, I fall down on the ground and expose myself to a counterattack. So I like the realism.
And
Well,
it looks like this looks like a significantly faster game than what we've seen from Dark Souls and Bloodborne, for that matter, in recent
It's
years, too,
slower
right?
than Bloodborne.
It's
Well,
slower than Bloodborne. Okay.
That doesn't
Yeah,
surprise me because this
it's
was
slower
originally
than
Brand.
Bloodborne,
So Brandon, is it obvious
But
that this was
faster than
originally a Tenchu game?
I don't know anything about that.
You never played Tenchu? Oh my god! Oh, Brandon!
No, I
Fine.
I am aware of Tenchu. I don't know
Okay.
if this game is.
Okay, but how does stealth
people-
feel? How about that? Because that's new for that's pretty new
Yeah,
for
it is.
software.
It is. Yeah.
And it feels good. Uh-oh.
Well, yeah.
doesn't
See,
sound-
I don't know. I feel I haven't
That
played
doesn't
enough.
sound
Also,
Okay.
no, I'm not saying it's bad or poorly implemented. I just mean that I'm still playing it mostly like a Souls game.
So
where
you've kind of just been like Leroy Jenkins
Yeah,
running
exactly
through it.
running
Okay.
straight, writing straight,
Incredible.
aggroing them.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm finding with the generals. So there's this game has a lot of mini bosses. They're all over the place.
I've heard
There's
that.
generals, regular mini bosses. So the generals are named opponents that are very strong. They require 2 death blow attacks to take out.
Of course they do.
So you can't just stealth them and kill them in one hit. Stealthing them will only give you, well, it'll take off half their health essentially.
So
Justin, John, hang on.
I've got
Justin, did you have something to
questions,
say? Justin looked like he was ready to talk about it. No, John.
No, I didn't. I just thought that sounded cool.
Let the Souls guy, let the Souls bro ask a question.
All right,
Zach. Let
all
the
right,
Souls
all
bro
right,
get in
all
on this.
right.
So, can you talk a little bit, Brandon, about character progression? Because I have heard this is nowhere near.
Okay.
There's not really.
very
anything-
different.
Yeah. Please, can you talk about that a little bit?
There's no levels. It's not a role playing game like that. There's no attributes. There's no strength, dex, stuff like that. So what you're doing, your experience points are all going towards skill points that allow you to unlock new combat abilities. So it's much more like a character, character action game progression like that.
Sounds like it's more streamlined, similar to the last 2
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed games. I mean, not literally, but the way that like
It is more streamlined for sure.
right, and you don't have to think about like the kind of build you're gonna do or anything like that.
I am gonna play the.
Well,
fucking
I
shit
mean,
out
I
of
think
this.
there's customization.
Okay.
You have a combat art ability, which
Mhm.
is you can only choose 1 combat art equipped at a time. So that will vary your playstyle. You also have like secondary weapons. Like you start with the first one you unlock is throwing stars. That
Okay.
will, sort of throw the opponent off balance and sort of break their defense a little bit.
But what's interesting, Brandon, is that I saw a quick video, like a 12-second video you posted on Twitter, and an ogre literally suplexed you and then threw you off a cliff. And
This ogre is a bitch, and everyone will know his wrath tomorrow.
I told Brandon before we went live, I said that is the most Dark Souls shit I have ever seen in my life. So I guess my question, Brandon, is that at the end of the day, does this feel like a Souls game? Does this feel like a successor to
It is
Souls?
very absolutely 100% a successor to
But-
Bloodborne and Demon Souls and Dark Souls.
Oh, yes.
But I want 2 answers here. One, I want as somebody who enjoys those games, and 2, as a general audience for people who haven't played, is it fun?
Oh
I- I
yeah,
know
it's
what you're
fun.
Oh
Okay.
god, I'm getting so excited.
it's
I might
fun.
take my shirt off.
Yeah. I mean, so the
No.
focus on defense sets it apart from great mini games. Obviously, Devil May Cry is about as going at it, just like for aggression, forward aggression, get that SSS rank. Bloodborne was all about an enemy hits you, mash that button to get all your health back real quick. But Sekiro is more like you're going for parries, you're putting up your sword in defense.
Now,
You're
for people
getting out of the fight with the grappling hook.
for people who have kind of slept on the last several Dark Souls games and Bloodborne, is this a good onboarding location for people who are new to that genre, or do you think that this would actually be a hard
Yes.
place to
No,
start and they should step back?
absolutely 100%. This is the most accessible
Okay.
From Software game in this style.
Okay.
In terms of like
Ooh.
tutorialization and easing you into the experience, there is no like bullshit in Demon Souls and Dark Souls you're meant to die right at the beginning of the game. There is nothing like that. And even Bloodborne, there's nothing like that in this game. I think it is the most difficult game they've ever made.
Okay.
However, it is
exactly-
also simultaneously the most approachable.
Sure.
I fucking
So
I
I
love
think-
I think it could be
literally
I think that's
everything you've
very
said.
interesting.
So I have a question that I kind of want to throw to Matt. So Matt, reviews for this game came out today. It is unless this has changed through later reviews, it is the best reviewed Activision game this generation. Is that still true? Is anybody? Yeah, I think.
I'm gonna
But
look
this
it
is
up right
also-
now.
What wouldn't Overwatch count
I'm gonna look it up.
as Activision Blizzard?
I can't remember where they.
Yeah, people probably are counting that as Blizzard, but I think that's
Okay,
similar.
So-
I'll look it up. I'll
We
look
don't
it
want
up.
to get
it's in-
technical. I don't know.
Okay, so in the meantime, it's the number 1 or number 2 most profitable game for Activision. Yes. How about this? It is not a studio that they own. This is this is a studio that they're working with. But this is also a game where I think we've seen a lot of people question why we haven't seen a lot of people talking about it. Is it a neat genre? That sort of thing. Matt, how viable is this genre in terms of trending on charts? And do you think reviews might help in this case for a genre that's otherwise seen as hardcore or a little bit niche?
Yeah, I mean, these games continue to sell better and better over time. Like each launch gets progressively bigger. I don't know why no one's has been talking about this game as much as Souls games. It is a new IP theoretically, so like that could be part of it.
Well,
Pre-orders
marketing
don't ma-
felt a little muted.
Well, not only that,
Yeah.
but like there are 13 reviews for this thing on PlayStation 4, that's going to be where everybody plays it because most of these games sell extremely top heavily on PS4. And there are 13 reviews for this game. Hey, Julian in chat, what's up, man? So I guess like let's broaden the scope of the question and ask why the fuck didn't they send out so what I have been told from a few reviewers who play the game is that it was extremely they were extremely stingy with review codes for this game, and given the quality of the game, I can't fucking figure out why.
Oh man. Okay, so to go down this road, I don't know for sure what the strategy is behind the review code for this particular game or the strategy. I think um, generally the idea more and more is influencer activity, getting the game out into streamers' hands and letting people watch it on Twitch and YouTube and that kind of thing. I don't know if that comes into play here. I don't think. All right, I think review scores still matter. I don't think they matter anywhere near what they used to in terms of correlating to sales. We're in a different era where the game review score and the sales correlation is probably the weakest it's ever been and getting weaker. So I can see why, if it's the case, that some other ways of trying to promote the game would take place. Now, in today's world where pre-orders don't really matter like they used to, and we get like last second massive overwhelmingly positive conversation and buzz like we're seeing on this game, it could come out with really big numbers and perhaps be the biggest launch of a game in this kind of subgenre. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do anticipate this game actually doing pretty well. I mean, in this marketplace where Kingdom Hearts 3 is the biggest game of the year,
That
and
blew
we're
my mind.
seeing these genres that used to be fairly small now being at the top of the charts pretty consistently. You go back to Dragon Ball like Fighters, like these kind of games that used to be somewhat more niche are getting more and more mainstream, and I think that might be the case here too. We'll have to see.
Sure. Does anybody have any more Sekiro before we kind of move into our next topic?
I have so many questions I want to ask, but I will refrain.
I mean, and ask me one more.
All right. Okay. All right. I'll ask you one more. Without getting into any spoilers. You've played for what, like a couple hours now total, Brandon? Over the
Yeah,
past?
like I have mostly finished the first area and started on the second.
Okay. So
Like the first like major, the first major area.
sure. So
Like I
everybody,
pretty much beat like what would be the undead Berg of Dark Souls.
Okay. I know exactly what you're talking about then.
Yeah.
So everybody knows that story is something that is extremely important in Souls games, but usually the story is something that you have to put together yourself through item descriptions and trying to decipher cryptic language from NPCs. Without getting into the details of the story itself, is the story in this actually fleshed out and straightforward? Can you actually understand the plot? I guess is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Okay.
The cutscenes are very straightforward. They're not cryptic at all. The plot, the motivations of the protagonist is established right from the opening cutscene. It's a pretty straightforward quest. However, there is still a little bit of when you talk to the NPCs, they are Dark Souls mysterious. Like they're the NPCs are cryptic in a
A lot
way
of people
that
say
will
that about
feel.
me.
You are Zach. I
Dark
would
Souls
say
mysterious.
you are the Dark Souls NPC of this podcast.
Thank you.
Well, I would say like the Souls games plots were very like they were kind of difficult to understand. Like they were all about like rekindling the flame and like, these weird concepts. But like Sekiro is like he's trying to get back this young kid who is the heir to this the kingdom, who gets kidnapped. That's basically it. Like it's very straightforward.
I just want to say, Zach, like we've got Dark Souls NPCs, like for example, every game has a crestfallen something. Like you got the crestfallen warrior, you've got the crestfallen traveler. I feel like your Dark Souls NPC name would be Frustrated Zachary.
Yeah, probably.
I feel like that's what you would be.
Listen. We've talked a lot about Sekiro. It's clear we're fond of the series. We will probably have some sort of spoiler cast or deep dive discussion that we will post later on. So look forward. But first, I think we should move on. Before we move to our final big topic, Google Stadia, I want to talk a little bit about yesterday's Nintendo Indie Direct. And the kind of, it feels like the crowning jewel of that being Cuphead.
Who cares?
A game funded by Microsoft, a game published exclusively on Xbox a year and a half ago, is coming to Nintendo Switch, and it will have Xbox Live support. Is this a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it's a pretty big deal. It's the first time we've really seen, when they introduced it, they said our friends at Microsoft, they're allowing, it's coming post-launch, but they are allowing Xbox Live integration to earn Xbox Live achievements.
That's pretty cool.
On the Switch, which is pretty neat, especially since the Switch doesn't have its own system. And they've said that, they're not working on a full Xbox Live XDK for Switch yet, but to expect other ports with the same kind of functionality within the next year. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Ori come on over, another 2D game from Microsoft that is a Metroidvania title, and those have been doing very well on Switch. I think that one's gonna happen.
Here's the thing, though, Justin. And here's the thing. I'm sorry. I thought you were cutting yourself off. Please continue, and then I'll make my point at the end.
No, and go ahed, John.
Okay, fine. I will go ahead.
John.
Look at me, bogarting the mic.
John.
That's how I do it. I'm the game dad, and every now and then I've got to rein it in and take charge. And so what I'm going to say is that I think that this is going to be a very, very, very one-sided street for Microsoft and Nintendo. You will not see Mario or Yoshi or Zelda pop up anywhere on Xbox Live or anywhere on Xbox. I think the deal here, and Matt, please chime in if you agree or disagree. But I think that this is one for the benefit of Microsoft to just get more people playing their games, and two, for Nintendo to say, hey, look, if you have an Xbox, that you can play your fucking Xbox games on the go now. Like you can pick up a Switch and get your achievements wherever you are, and everything's gonna be connected to your Xbox Live account. I don't think you are going to see a single Nintendo title ever appear on the Xbox. I don't think that's ever going to be part of the deal, but maybe you guys disagree. Matt, maybe you disagree.
Well, I don't know if I disagree, but I don't think that it matters because I think this is just part of what Phil Spencer and the folks at Microsoft have been talking about for 2 years, which is to make the games available everywhere and the platform not being restricted by hardware and the kind of the post console war future, which we're moving to very quickly. And I think it's both Microsoft and Nintendo recognizing that it's not direct competition anymore. the cross ownership rates between Switch and Xbox One are really high, as they are with PS4. So there's no reason to not have that kind of partnership. And all it's doing is making more games available in more places. Microsoft wins by having portability for their games. Nintendo wins by having more games on their platform. So I think it's just all a win-win situation. And the one thing we have to figure out is what Sony's going to do in this kind of new world we're going into.
Yeah, and one thing I just want to add too is Microsoft is saying games like Cuphead and games of the caliber of Cuphead you can expect to see hitting Switch, which is like your Oris and your Cuphead and your kind of platformer games, which is I think is a perfect fit for
Can't wait
for
to
a mobile
play
platform.
Crackdown 3 on the go, Zach.
But,
Can't wait to play
like,
Crackdown 3 on the go.
And I think one of the reasons, besides these games being easy to play in short bursts, what makes these so approachable is that they aren't system sellers for Microsoft, right? Like very few people will buy an Xbox to play Ori and the Blind Forest or to play Cuphead. They're great. They're great games to play when you already have the platform, but it's a year and a half after launch for Cuphead. Microsoft has probably made the vast majority of their money they're going to make off of PC and Xbox sales in that game. So why not bring it to a platform to integrate more people into that experience, into that IP? And who knows, maybe in a year or two, those people might consider an Xbox platform if they're used to the functions there.
So,
but one, sorry, do you have something?
I was going to ask you a question, Zach, and also,
Okay.
well, this is for you, Zach, since you're our Xbox gamer here, but also for the group in general. Do you think that we are going to see, and I know this might be a long shot, but do you think we're going to see big first-party titles like Halo or Gears pop up on Switch? Not necessarily games like Halo Infinite, because that would make your Switch fucking melt. But I'm talking like older games like Master Chief Collection or Gears of War, Gears of War Trilogy or something like that.
So the only way I could see that happening is if Microsoft and Nintendo keep being close friends and xCloud becomes a more dominant thing. I mean, and who knows? Maybe if they make an a dev kit for Switch, then maybe we'll see this. But I mean, I don't know. That's so speculative, John. I don't really know where Microsoft is going the next 3 years. I mean, I think I could probably give you a better guess at E3,
okay.
After they reveal it. But I mean, that's I don't know. That's a hard one to guess.
I see Matt chuckling down there. Matt, what are you chuckling about down there?
Well, yeah,
He
like
knows.
after E3, we're gonna know a hell of a lot more. I mean,
he knows. Matt knows.
Microsoft's gonna open the proverbial kimono, and everything will be known.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hard thing to speculate about. But I wouldn't be shocked if we see more things, but I would not expect Microsoft to put their system sellers, at least in close proximity to their release onto Switch. But like, who knows? Like in a year or two, maybe we will see the Master Chief Collection pop up on there through Game Pass or xCloud or something. But I mean, I don't know, John. I mean, we'll see. I think this is really cool. Because I like more synergy between these brands. Obviously, they're competitors, and I like the competition because that means more stuff for us. But I mean, it's cool to see people not just having to pick sides. The other thing is this is getting a little bit closer to me wanting Cuphead and Mugman to be featured characters in Smash. So we're getting there slowly.
They would be perfect fits, but I don't think that's going to happen.
We'll see.
We will see.
We'll see.
And there might be a Twitter.
I don't know. I think it's more likely than a character like Banjo. As much as I like Banjo. We'll see. Okay, fine. Talk some shit, I guess.
Yeah, I will talk some shit.
But yeah, no. I mean, I think this will be an interesting thing to watch. I think it'll be interesting to watch the sales. I think it'll be a good litmus test for Microsoft and that sort of thing.
Just a technical issue that it appears that some of our viewers are not getting Twitch notifications that we're going live.
That's a Twitch thing, I believe.
Yeah. I would love to have that as an excuse. That sounds great. That's why people are just like, we are getting more people rolling in now. So I mean, whatever. If you're coming late, that's no problem.
Well, no. Like people in chat are saying they're like they have that they have it in the settings and they're not getting Twitch. It's not pushing notifications. Okay. So that might be an issue we have to look into. And
thanks,
also,
Jeff Bezos. It might just be Bezos.
Two people did not get the notification we are live. So. What the fuck, Twitch? Okay. Fix your shit.
Well,
it's okay. It's okay.
Before we move on, I just want to, make a comment that like we've seen obviously Cuphead on Switch is by far the biggest of any of this we've seen, but like there have been multiple announcements at this GDC that have shown each of the console platform holders kind of loosening up the strings on some of their IPs and stuff. Nintendo, who is really well known for being ultra protective of their IPs, is allowing an indie developer to make a Zelda game. There is going to be a Crypt of the Necrodancer
That was fucking dope too.
spin-off.
That was my game of the show right there.
Yeah, spin-off game that is going to be based on Zelda. The developers said they approached Nintendo initially just to see if they could do like a DLC or something, and Nintendo's like, no, we wanted you to do a full game, and they're like, okay. So that's really cool to see, especially from Nintendo, who we know is ultra protective of their IPs. Quantic Dreams games are also coming to PC now. And I mean, whatever you want to say about it, like, we don't know exactly, what's involved in that, but Sony has always made ownership of the IP their number one requirement if they publish a game. And now this is about now there's 5 Sony published games that have moved to PC in the past few months. There was Journey and Flower, and then now it's Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit. And so I just have one sentence to finish. And like if it was just like the older games that were on PS3 and had been remastered on PS4, it would be a bit less interesting. But like Detroit making it over, which is a very recent game, less than a year old, is pretty interesting, and I'm kind of curious as to what's going on with that.
Well, and so sorry, Justin, I didn't mean to interrupt. I wanted to throw a question to you to keep you going.
Oh,
but,
go.
So my idea or my question is, do you think that this is? I mean, there's twofold. One, David Cage is kind of a toxic guy after reports that started about a year ago.
Yes,
so
that's also part of it. There also there might just be a wanting to disconnect with that brand kind of thing.
I wonder if this is more likely, is that we do have Days Gone coming out, and it had pretty positive reception. But I also wonder if this is Sony, they're not doing E3 this year, if this is a nice way where they are looking, even if they're letting Quantic Dream put their games up on PC, Sony's probably still getting a slice of that pie. Is this just them trying to get a little bit extra money their way this year with a light first party offering?
I'm not really sure. I mean, that's kind of also the weird thing about this one is like the other ones that I mentioned were clearly talked about, by the companies themselves. Sony's name is not anywhere on the Quantic Dream announcements, which is interesting. So I don't know if it's that, but like it at least seems like now maybe when developers aren't going to be working exclusively with PlayStation anymore, there's at least a route for them getting, their IPs and their games to other players, which, at least is a big change in the publishing sense, which is good.
Yeah. Does anybody else have anything they want to talk about, Nintendo related, Cuphead related, or Quantic Dream related before we head into talking about?
Man, I want to talk about the future of games. I want to talk about the future of our industry, Zach. I want to talk about the sea change that is happening across the spectrum. I want to talk about how consoles are doomed. I want to talk about how by this time next year I will have thrown out my PS4, smashed my Xbox One with a sledgehammer, and lit my Nintendo Switch on fire.
I've already put my PC on eBay. I just built it.
I, Brandon, want to talk about how I am going to take my PC, smash it into tiny pieces, and flush it joyfully down the toilet.
As we all hail our new Lord.
Our new Google overlords have arrived.
Google.
And
Stadia.
I don't know about you all on this podcast or anybody in chat, but I, for one, am perfectly happy to welcome our new Google overlords and give them all of the information, all of the personal information they require from me. That is the sacrifice I lay upon the altar of gaming, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
before we delve into it, it's clear that John does not have a good feeling about.
John's got opinions.
Yeah. From the outset, it's clear John doesn't like it. Is everybody else kind of lukewarm, positive, negative? Justin, do you want to tell me how you're feeling about it before we get into it?
I'm kind of mixed. I'll get into it more because I think I'm kind of mixed on kind of a lot of individual parts, but I think they're kind of disparate conversations. I will say the name and logo are real bad.
It sounds like opinion. It sounds like something you put in your drink to make it taste a little better. It's like, man, I could really. I don't like sugar. I could really use some Stadia packets, some Stadia packets to put in my decaffeinated coffee this morning.
It doesn't stay in my head. The logo looks kind of quickly mocked up, but like those are just initial impressions. I'll get more into my feelings on it like as we go on, because I think all of them kind of just lead into different conversations. And
Justin,
I don't want to take up too much time.
I just want to make sure that you are aware, and that everybody else is aware, that side effects of Stadia may include itching, oozing, burning, kind of a fungus between your toes.
Yes.
I will go. Please shut up, John. Please.
I'm
sorry. It sounds like a fucking medical product. I'm sorry. Like, it's just a bad name. It's a bad name. Like, who the fuck thought of this name? Stadia.
No, it's
Stadia. It's terrible.
It's bad.
I've been wanting to get that off my chest for days now. It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, but John. I mean, in all seriousness, you get used to it. And Xbox One was a terrible name.
No. Compared to Stadia, Xbox One is a fucking blessing.
But John, listen. Just let me.
It's not important.
The name is not really important, and it's so superficial compared to the rest of the announcement.
It is important, Zach.
Matt,
the most important thing.
Can you be a voice of reason and bring some? I mean, Justin was pretty level-headed on this too.
There's
but
no reason on this podcast.
Matt, can you help us simmer John down a little bit?
No, I can't help you with that. But
okay,
he admits the truth.
So I mean, overall, right? Generally, when we have new ways to play and new ways for folks to participate in gaming, it generally makes the market get bigger. It makes accessibility better, and generally moves the market forward. I don't think this is going to be any different here. I think there's a lot of hyperbole around both Google taking over the world with this, as well as the consoles are dead, or this is going to be dead on arrival. No, it'll be fine. What gets me is this is just the first one that we're going to see announced this year.
Oh yeah.
This is kind of what I wanted to talk about later, because how many people do we know are working on streaming services?
Let's save
like
that for later. Let's save that for later.
Brandon, can you kind of quickly run us through your initial impression before we delve into it?
Initial impressions of what?
Stadia. Broadly speaking.
Oh yeah. I got 2 words. Data cap.
Data. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And I guess let's bring that into our.
Oh, this fucking.
What was the number
quoted? That
honestly,
was
like this. That's how little I care about the Stadia. I won't even consider it because I'm on data capped internet. End of story.
Right.
Because somebody did an estimate of like what the 4K HDR streams.
I think I saw 7 gigs an hour, roughly.
I think it was closer to 20 for the 4K 60
HDR.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So that was the thing that first, like all joking aside, that was the first thing that jumped out at me. Like, the tech itself is super impressive, right? Like, and when you're watching it, like the concept of being able to, watch a stream or watch a YouTube video that says click here to play the game and jump seamlessly into the game. That's cool, right? Like, it's an interesting concept, but and people and Reb was there. Reb, we hope you're having a good time over at GDC. The people in the room were impressed by what they saw, but people have to remember that is a controlled environment with state of the art hardware, and they made sure all the bandwidth, there's no bandwidth issues there. They made sure that everything was working at an optimum level there.
Yeah, and if you just kind of piggybacking off of that, like Digital Foundry had an exclusive look with Stadia, and like they had a breakdown of the latency that seemed far more positive than some of the hands-on I saw from people that were at the show. So yeah, like it seems like a lot of those tests, I assume Digital Foundry's tests were in a very controlled environment.
But
Right.
but like data caps are a big deal, right? Because we live in the fucking middle of nowhere, and we have Comcast,
Well-
and we're data capped, and dealing like, dude, like the thought of having to deal, because Zach, you know that there's going to be wrangling with ISPs over this, and there are going to be package deals and fucking like, pay a premium, and we'll raise your data cap, and I can see ISPs completely taking people to the fucking cleaners over shit like this.
Well, so like here's the thing, right? I think that streaming is inevitable. But I think that in the meantime, in 2019, data caps, and frankly during this administration when we have king shit at Ajit Pai fucking up the FCC, we will not see we will not see the government use internet as a utility to limit ISP's ability to limit our data each month. And so when the FCC doesn't work in our favor, we have things like data caps, and that limits the adoption of tech like this, and it puts a chokehold on us as an adoption rate, right? I think this is inevitable, but I think that the infrastructure needs to be there to support it, and I don't think it is yet, which sucks because I genuinely think, like right now, I have the speeds to handle this at 4K. I do not have the bandwidth. I have 1 terabyte a month on my internet, and I don't even know if they have unlimited where I live.
Well, not only that, here's like there are 2 other issues at play here that jumped out to me immediately, and I'll tackle one, and then we can talk about that, and I'll bring up the other one. But the first one is, I think we need to talk about ownership, right? Because I own all my games. I've got some. I own a few physical copies. Most of my copies are digital, but I own them. I have the licenses for them. I own those games. I can play them whenever I want. And maybe we just don't know enough yet about the service itself.
John, it's going to be the same as your Xbox or
I don't
PS.
think so, man. Like, how can it be? But no, Zach, how can it be? If I'm watching a streamer play a game, or I'm watching a YouTube video and it says click here to play the game now, they click that button and it launches right into the game. Now, granted, we don't know enough about how much it works, but I think there's a real issue of ownership here.
John, they streamlined that for a press conference purpose. I very much promise you that there will be a prompt at some point. Now, I'm not saying like it might work like they showed, but after about 10 minutes, they will give you a prompt to pay them. John, you will be paying them.
Yeah. You might have to watch an ad. You might have to have a subscription. We don't know exactly what the pricing model is yet, which is also the big question mark.
Google, dude.
So the pricing model, you can already know publishers aren't going to give up their content to a Google streaming service for less than they can get for that same content elsewhere. I think we're going to see. I think these dreams people have of this utopia of free gaming, they're gonna get rudely awakened at some point.
Wait, Matt, you mean to tell me that as games are getting more expensive to make, I can't just play them for free after watching a YouTube ad?
I don't believe that shit for a fucking second. That's
no. I don't know. but John, I very much promise you that these games will probably have a traditional pricing model. The way you start them up might be different, but they will probably have a traditional pricing model.
I think there's going to be a subscription model.
Might see. No, I mean maybe, but like it might be like Game Pass. It could be. We might see, but I think there'll be variations. I think we might see free to play games that have ads. I think we might see games where you pay $60 up front, and I think we might see games where you pay a lump sum and you kind of have you kind of have a Game Pass model.
No,
but
it's going to
be. They also could do stuff like
it's going to be a sub.
They could also do something like Origin Access, where you can stream up to a certain point as like a demo and then pay.
Sounds so unappealing to me. I mean, I don't.
But John, that like there are so like listen, I will concede that there are a million issues and a million reasons to be hesitant about this, but I promise you the licenses are not what you should be worried about.
We need a betting board, boys. We need a betting board.
Yes,
okay.
We do.
All right.
I think it's going to be a fucking subscription service. I think the writing's on the wall here.
My bet is a $60 game on Xbox One or PS4 is a $60 game on this service, at least for the first few months.
Yep,
that'll be my bet.
No, I don't think.
I think that's going to be how it starts until they have enough games. Because that kind of transitions into something else I wanted to talk about. Is we know Ubisoft is going to have Assassin's Creed Odyssey on there. We know Bethesda is going to have Doom Eternal on there. However, this is something that I wasn't expecting, is that the Stadia servers do require their own specific builds of the game. I was initially expecting it to be, just running the PC version of a game. That adds kind of an extra wrench into it because these games have to be ported to the Google Stadia, which it sounds like it's a relatively easy port. It's, pretty standard hardware. However, that is extra work for the development teams. That's an extra layer of compatibility that now has to be added in. Like if it was just running a PC version of the game, there wouldn't be any work on the developer's end, and it would allow there to be a lot more games right off the bat. Now, I imagine Google's probably spending a lot of money to get some big games there day and date, but like we don't know how long that'll keep up. We don't know
so I guess
how often that'll be so like that was I think probably my biggest surprise about what this platform is, and the area where I'm kind of most concerned, because I think that might end up being where where they kind of hit some stumbles.
So I let me just say this. I totally agree with Matt in that I think that they will do $60 for big games. I do not think you will listen. Fallout 76 aside, I think Bethesda relatively I think they're pretty good at keeping their finger on the pulse, and I think they would not subject their players to an experience. Doom is a game where they have a very specific design philosophy, and they want players to be in that design philosophy, and they're not going to stop that, John, for you to sit through an ad. I promise.
Okay, so
they will have you pay for it, but no, hang on, let me finish. I think that largely you'll be paying for your big AAA games. I think it's also possible they have a $5 or $10 subscription model where you will play indie games at the same time. That will similar to Game Pass.
Okay, so Zach, consider this.
Mhm.
This is
Okay.
for everybody. Okay. The other thing that leaped out to me immediately is that I guarantee you they are going to lean extremely heavy on the streamer audience starting out, right?
Yeah, I mean,
because,
yep.
but here's the thing: what do streamers depend on more than anything else? They depend on views, right? They need people to watch their content, or else they're not making money. Okay, they're not getting hits. They're not getting ad revenue. They're not making money. Okay, so if you click that button, if you're watching, like for example, let's just use Sekiro as an example. Let's pretend this thing is already here, and I'm watching, a fucking, streamer X play Sekiro, and I'm like, oh, this looks great. After about 20 minutes, I want to try this, and I click here to play now button or whatever they're gonna do it, right? That streamer's going to lose that view because I'm not watching his stream anymore. I'm going to play the game that he's streaming.
Yeah, but John, if that player buys it, it's just like referral links through Twitch. If that player buys it, that guy's gonna get a cut of that, a slice of that pie.
And I feel like this is also going to be how Google gets more people streaming on YouTube.
Yep.
Instead of Twitch. I can almost see different streaming services having different partnerships with different video streaming companies. Like Microsoft has xCloud coming out. Microsoft also has Mixer. I expect xCloud and Mixer to have this kind of integration. I could see Sony partnering up with Twitch for like future iterations of PlayStation Now. But yes, I think Google is going to be leveraging this with the gaming side of YouTube quite a bit.
Well, and that's the thing, Justin, is that like Sam, I was going to say, Sam actually just pointed out in chat, he said YouTube recommended gaming videos are going to get even more annoying. And
yeah.
100
No,
absolutely.
I think we can all undeniably admit that like one of the weirdest things here is like they left a lot of grace. This was a lot of the positives, obviously, as you'd expect for an announcement, but they didn't answer a lot of questions. And one of those things is, what are you going to do with my data? Right? They kicked off their conference by talking about how they're using data to make the world better, but how are they going to use user data? And I don't think that means that we'll give you free games in exchange for your data. I just think it means, what are we going to be scumming off of our users as they play these games, and what kind of things are we going to we are already seeing YouTube algorithms at play, and how those things can kind of get fucked around with on YouTube algorithms, and I'm interested to see how that's influenced with games. But I am skeptical of how they use my data. But John, I think you're a little too nervous about licenses, bud.
Oh, I don't think I am, and there's other things to be concerned about as well. Like it sounds like I'm really down on it, but I'm not that enthusiastic about this. Like
my one issue with the license thing isn't so much for third-party games that are available on other platforms. It's for the stuff that Google is going to be releasing.
Sure. Yeah.
Because Google specifically has said they have a team being led by Jade Raymond to make games exclusively for Stadia, which Jade Raymond has a wonderful track record in the game industry. Sounds like cool games that I would like to play. And, you know, I'd probably, if the only way to play it is on Stadia, I'll probably try it out via Stadia. However, Google also has a track record of, if things aren't as successful as they need to be, closing it. And given the server infrastructure needed for something like Stadia, I don't know how long that will last. But then after that, you know, their own games are going to disappear without any other way of playing them, which I think that is more of a concern to me, especially if they're good games.
When that's a conversation that's happening in chat right now, Justin, is game preservation and what
Well,
this
but
does.
but I mean, is that any different? I mean, sure, it could be sooner or much later, but is that any different than Nintendo closing the Wii shop?
I think it could be. I think it could be worse.
I mean, but the thing is, homebrew people have been able to extract some of those games that were only available on the eShop. There's going to be no way of getting around that, whether it's legal or not.
Okay, so here's my question, right? I want to throw this to Matt. Like, granted, we don't know that there are still so many unknowns about this. Like, it was. By the way, can I just say, like, I love the whole, you know, here I am, you know, I'm introducing our new gaming service. I'm not much of a gamer. Just going to be upfront with you. Like, I don't play a lot of games, but I'm here to talk about our gaming service. That really made me chuckle. But it's not a big deal. I love that. I was like, oh man, that's fantastic. But Matt, from an engagement perspective, because, you know, you're the sales expert here. And granted, I know that, you know, this is, you know, you can only, you know, you don't have a crystal ball, and we only know so much right now. And I'm sure we'll know more. I'm guessing at E3. We'll get a big Google presentation. We'll get a price and an actual model as to how you categorize your games or what your library is going to look like. But I have said for a long time that I don't think that this industry can sustain 4 consoles. Like, there's always been 3, right? Be it Sega, Nintendo, and PlayStation, or Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation. I don't think this industry has ever been able to sustain more than 3 platforms. And even though it's a streaming service, right now, I would consider it a 4th platform. And so I'm wondering, Matt, do you think that this is going to pull people away from the traditional consoles? Do you think that there was, I guess, to kind of sum it all up, do you think Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft should be worried about Stadia?
Okay, a lot of questions. So the idea behind these initiatives and the ones that are still to come are going to be to get past the traditional console size audience to the billions of people. So theoretically, are the streaming services going to compete with the traditional consoles? In some sense, yes. But this is really trying to go after those people where the upfront cost of the console was a barrier to entry to begin with. And there are a lot of those people. So that console audience, the folks that are willing to pay $200, $300, $400 for a console, put it under their TV, play it in a more dedicated fashion, that's one group. But then you have the 75% of people that play games that don't play on consoles, that primarily play mobile. That's who they're going after with this. So for folks like Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, each of them are going in a different direction with this. Like, Microsoft's going to be right there with a service that I think is going to be better. Sony is still TBD on how they're going to react to this. I think they're really riding high on their recent success, and I don't think they're going to want to rock that boat too much in the short term. They're going to continue to focus on big single player experiences, the more traditional console experience, and in my estimation, I think that's the way they're going to go. And Nintendo, I mean, we're talking about already, they're moving into a different direction.
Yeah.
So I don't think they have anything to worry about. Ultimately, if these streaming services are going to succeed, they're going to succeed by grabbing people who wouldn't otherwise be in these ecosystems, or or offering the people that are an alternative when they're on the road or not at their home system.
Can I just say, I think one of the, and Matt touched on this, like I think one of the best things about Google's announcement is because there are so many question marks, and because they're trying to launch this year, and we know at least Microsoft is trying to probably do the same, or maybe they'll push it till next year. I think that a lot of our concerns, whether they're about licensing or they're about pricing models or whatever, I think the best thing, or how data is used, frankly, is that there will be competition here where if Google was going to do some shady shit from your monetization or data perspective, Microsoft would be right there with an alternative that's like, we're not going to do that, and we're going to offer you the same thing, which is really what we saw with PlayStation 4 and Xbox One's original DRM policy, right? Like, I think competition will be what drives a user-friendly policy here in the long run.
So speaking of competition, I've got a question for the whole group. I have a question for the whole group.
Really quick. No, hang on, John.
I think John's going to actually say one of the things I was going to say now. So go ahead.
Okay. Well, let's find out, Justin. Let's find out. Sorry, I didn't see you trying to get a word in there.
So I have another little thing I want to say kind of towards the end of this conversation, but the next bit I want to go into is the streaming service competition, which I think is what John was starting to talk about. So at this point, we have streaming video services like we have with Netflix, Amazon, Hulu and stuff have kind of started getting to a point where now there's a lot more competition entering in now. Apple is working on a service. Disney Plus is launching this year. It kind of took a while to get to this point, but now kind of everybody wants a slice of that pie. And we're kind of seeing that start really early with these game streaming services. Because right now, Sony already has PlayStation Now, and I imagine they will be overhauling that in the future. Google clearly has announced Stadia. Microsoft has talked about xCloud. EA and Ubisoft have said that they want their own streaming services. Walmart,
streaming service, baby.
Has expressed interest in it. Amazon has expressed interest.
Oh, you know the base. You know the base is going to get in there.
Yeah, like it's gonna get wild.
So
and I think at some point there's going to be like kind of even crazier platform wars between streaming services than there are hardware, because I don't think people will want to subscribe to that many services or have just that, kind of like just not, that disjointed of a library.
So that's sort of the direction I was going to go, but my question, Justin, does have to do with competition, but kind of in a different manner. So right now, I can turn on my PS4 is right there, right? I can go turn it on right now, and I can use my controller to navigate to a browser. I can go to YouTube, I can go to Twitch, I can watch shit. In theory, I could play that shit on my PS4 right there with the PS4 controller, right? On my couch. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. So my question is do you think that Microsoft and Sony will institute some kind of stopgap to prevent you from using Stadia on their browser on their console? Because that to me, it would feel, if I was in charge, like if I was Phil Spencer or if I was Shuhei Yoshida, I'm not sure I would want somebody utilizing another service on my console.
I highly doubt that it would be something that, like, it's not going to be an app that would go on an Xbox I highly doubt that it will be an app on a PS4 or an Xbox One.
Well, I mean, there is a YouTube app. Oh yeah, that's right.
So Stadia only works through Chrome. Is that what Sam is saying?
Only works through Chrome. So unless Google implements it in their YouTube apps, like they have, which I'm not sure will happen.
Does it not work on Firefox or
No, it's Chrome. It is Google Chrome built.
You have to be using Chrome to use Stadia.
Yep.
Interesting.
That is the. I mean, it's that's
not the
hardware,
platform.
But exactly. Right. But I mean, I would be. You are more likely to see this become a application on a smart TV than you are to see it become an app on a console. Right.
So what do you guys think? Do you think this guy? I mean, guys, and this is for Matt too. do you guys think this is just gonna be like a fucking like a Steam library, or like assuming that I'm wrong, like let's just assume I'm wrong on the subscription thing, and it's not gonna be like the Netflix service of games. Like when you buy a game, are you just gonna like is this just gonna be Steam? Like, are you just gonna log into to whatever service you're doing, and because that's what we don't know, right? Like, because all they did was they showed us somebody play, watching a video of Assassin's Creed on YouTube or Twitch or whatever it was, and then they click the button and all of a sudden they're playing it. They're in the game and playing it, and it's super super impressive, and I get that. But if I'm not watching a video of Assassin's Creed on a stream or on a YouTube,
it'll have a storefront.
How do I? That's my
there will be a storefront.
But
I'm
okay,
sure.
but here's my question though, Zach. Like, aside from clicking on the video and playing the game, like, what is the difference between this and Steam? Like, I mean, I don't.
You don't download anything. I mean, like that's the gimmick, John. It's just that you don't download it, right? I mean, like that.
You don't download it. You can use it on any device. You can use it anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. That's the difference.
Well, not quite any device.
Well, not quite anywhere.
Yeah, I was gonna say
mobile,
there are
it's
some
not gonna be,
limitations.
like, there's going to be a lot of restrictions, but I think, John, that's the way it's going to go, though, is you're going to, I mean, just because the rights management and making sure that everyone gets paid that's supposed to get paid, you're going to have a library. You're going to have to click some button saying purchase or add to my library. And if you can launch it through YouTube, it's probably going to be because you'd already had that in your library at some point, and it just clicks it right over and launches it. I mean, people still got to get paid in this whole mess.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to kind of bring up is, I know, like, in general, I've raised concerns. All of us, I think, are a little down, probably particularly because of Google's implementation, Google's involvement in the Stadia. But I have been doing some tests lately with the Remote Play app for the PS4 that just launched on iOS. And it's interesting. And, like, that kind of gives me an idea for what I think could be really cool from the streaming services from Microsoft and Sony. And I think, a way that would give them kind of a leg up on somebody like Google, which is kind of an extension of your console. Basically, they already have cloud save backups and stuff. Like, imagine, once you have a game on your like, say, just on your PlayStation, I'm just going to keep using that as the example because I, was playing with the Remote Play app. You can stream the game from where you left off. If you want to do some grinding in a game, save it and then come back to it on your console or something later. Like, I think the idea of streaming services kind of being an extension of the console in your living room and kind of, almost acting as like, the Switch part of your console could be really, really cool, as well as having the same, kind of easy accessibility that the streaming services would have for, people outside of these ecosystems. I think that could be neat. And I do think that has real potential.
Yeah.
And I think, I kind of want to just put out that kind of, vision and idea as, ways that I think streaming could really, kind of boost the console ecosystem.
Right, and I think, like, ultimately that is the leg up that Sony, Microsoft, and maybe one day Nintendo would have, is that somebody is established and feels comfortable in that ecosystem and they're not adding another thing, right? Like Disney Plus will probably be a great offering, but, like, if you ask me today if I would rather it show up on my Hulu or my Netflix, or do I want to sub to a fourth service, like, I'm gonna kind of want the existing service that I'm on, right? But I mean, I think that's the biggest limitation. Guys, we are kind of running close to our time. We've got a couple more, housekeeping things, but really quick, I want to hear what would make you feel more comfortable, or better yet, what does Google need to tell you at E3 to reassure you, or at least make you feel slightly more comfortable about their platform ahead of its launch? I want to throw it first to Brandon.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay, you want okay.
I want throw Google money at it to make it happen.
Okay. John, you're the most nervous.
I will pay Comcast $50 a month to uncap my internet.
John, you're the most nervous here. What's it going to take to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, bud?
if Google throws some money at Square Enix to get Final Fantasy VI on Switch, I'll feel a lot better about it.
Okay.
Money hats all around.
If they can
Okay.
make that happen for me, if Google can somehow money hat a Octopath Traveler style remake of Final Fantasy VI on Switch, I will happily play all my other games on Stadia. Aside from that, I don't really care about it.
Okay. How about you, Matt?
So these are two perfect examples. It'll all depend on content. We can talk all about how we like or don't like certain aspects of the offering, but it'll come down to content and it'll come down to monetization, and that's what are the missing pieces right now.
Okay. How about you, Justin?
Yeah, so content, pricing are the big ones. Also, I want to know about the quality of the streaming video, because I am a stickler for picture quality. I watch 4K 60 YouTube on my TV all the time.
Fucking big,
It does
big
not-
high
it
roller
does-
over here.
I have a TV that supports it. Like, it's not that special, John.
I know, man. I know.
But like, it looks nowhere near the level of quality of playing a game natively. And you know, I have downloaded some of the comparisons, and Stadia very much looks like watching a YouTube video of a game. I want to know if that's going to improve.
I'll tell you what. If Google could get SDGC on Stadia, I would be happily subscribe to that.
So John, you get ready to thank our new patrons, but first I want to talk about what I think would make me feel a little bit more comfortable, and I think that this won't happen, but whatever. I would like Google to address the elephant in the room, which is data caps in the United States, and I would like for them to either have a way to work around that or announce partnerships or add-ons with current ISPs to help you circumvent that. I mean, and that's just my personal thing is and yeah, I think the data is a big deal too, but I just think even if there was a great exclusive that I want, I could only play it for 20 hours before I hit my data cap, and I can't use my internet for anything else that month. So yeah, I mean, I think data caps are what makes me the most nervous right now. But
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Unfortunately, I don't think those are things that Google is going to address. I
Yeah,
think those
no,
are going to...
yeah.
The data thing, we know Google, they won't talk about it. And the data cap thing is just going to be them shrugging their shoulders and saying, not my problem.
Well, and I think it'll be interesting and potentially a rude awakening for some Americans, because as Matt said, this isn't really going on after your hardcore Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo players or PC players. It's going after your mobile users. And I wonder how many mobile users who not exclusively, but do skew to a younger audience actually know that they have a data cap, or do they know that their parents have a data cap? And will they try the new Assassin's Creed on their phone and just blow through it? Because I didn't know I had a data cap until like August of this year. So those kind of things. Comcast does a really cool thing where they just like send you an email when you hit it. It's very cool.
It's amazing.
It's very cool to pay Comcast.
I
every
love
month.
Comcast.
It's so good.
Zach,
I
gotta ask you,
yeah.
is there anything else that makes you nervous? Like, not about Stadia, but just like in general? Like,
big spiders.
do you ever get nervous
Yeah.
that like I'm gonna start like Final Fantasy port begging out of nowhere in the middle
No,
of
I
the
know.
podcast?
I'm not nervous about it because you're always gonna do it, John. It's a constant in my life. John, listen, I'm sleepy and I want to catch one episode of The Americans before bed. Can you bring us down? Can you bring us down and also thank our sweet new patrons?
I can do it. And
Thank you.
I'll lower my voice a little bit because it is getting late and I want to lull people into slumber with the low purr of my voice here. So I'll get my best Derek going here if he's still in the chat. We do have a Patreon now, of course, and we've already got some patrons, and I wanted to take a minute and thank everybody who has subscribed so far to give us this trash fire their hard-earned money. So I want to thank Julian. I want to thank Constantly Calibrating. That would be Josh Silverman, Shane Johnson, Tim K, our friend Mitty, Spencer Neptonic Lynch, another one of our mods, Rar, Nicholas Downey, who of course is on the Inner Circle, John Wall, our buddy Wout, the hashtagonist, I want to thank Somewhat Groovy, Hussein Unsal, the Iron Lords podcast, also part of the Inner Circle Network, Mike Queen, and Pintful of Tokens. I don't know Pintful of Tokens. I know the name. I feel like I should know who Pintful of Tokens is. But I apologize.
Shouts
for
out.
listening, and I don't. If you do want to support us, we would again. I just want to stress we don't gate any of our content as of right now. We are not going to put anything behind a paywall for you as of right now. Any support you give us is out of the goodness of your heart. And if you want to, there's no stress for anybody. We're not going to pressure you to do it. However, if you do, there's a link right there on our Twitch page at the bottom. If you want to click on that and throw a few dollars our way and maybe help us get some better equipment and help us with some travel costs, we would really appreciate that. Speaking of travel, next week is a very big week for us. PAX East is coming up, and this is going to be the first time. There's going to be 6 of us there, and this is going to be the first time that some of us have ever met each other in person after doing this for years. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot planned. And of course, don't forget, we're going to try to do something live while we're there. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what form that's going to take. It might just be us goofing off in our hotel room, because it's going to be, 6 dudes, 2 beds, no rules. It's going to be wild. Passions are going to run high. Sparks are going to fly. Like, who knows what's going to happen in that hotel room? But what happens in that hotel room will not stay in that hotel room, because we're going to do something for you guys live. It's going to be great. That'll be Thursday night.
Oh my god, that sounds awful.
Oh no!
Yeah.
No, Brandon, it's beautiful. Brandon, it's
Is this
beautiful.
streaming live on Pornhub?
Oh, absolutely.
Man,
I just
no.
I want another
God.
moment. I want a moment like our first PAX East visit, when it was me and Maddie and Finn, and they were playing 1-2 Switch. And they were playing that cow milking game where you're moving the Joy-Cons up and down to milk the udders. And Maddie just looks right at Finn and he says, "You fucking look me in the eyes when you're milking." And it was really just a beautiful moment, just a powerful moment between two friends. And I hope that we're able to recreate that somehow at PAX East next week. And I would also remind everybody to please tune in on April 11th, because Greg Miller from Kinda Funny Gamescast is going to be joining us that night, and it's going to be fucking wild. It's going to be great. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. Zach, you look like you want to say something real quick.
No, I was just going to say, John, before you sign us off, I wanted to thank Matt again for his time tonight.
Yes.
Really appreciate it. And also, I mean, listen, it takes a lot to tolerate an hour and a half of John. We really appreciate it.
It really does.
You can file us on your taxes as community service. You've done a lot. Matt, where can people find you on Twitter if they're not already following you?
I am on Twitter at Matt Piscatella with 1 T in Matt, or search for NPD. I'm usually around there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time.
I just want to point out, Dio in chat says we need the milking video. Oh, you're going to get the
No,
milking video, Dio.
John,
It's
bring us
happening.
home.
It's happening.
It's
The
time for
milking
bed.
video. The milking video is coming. Yes, Rar. Rar missed that. Yeah, we're not gonna announce on our Twitter until the week of, just because we don't want to, be better to kind of drop that on a Monday or something. But yes, Greg Miller will be on SDGC on April 11th, unless he listens to this podcast, then he might not. But anyway,
True.
I know, right? But as always, everybody, please check us out at PAX next week. And if you're going to be there, let us know.
Come say hi.
We'd love to give you a hug, shake your hand, hang out with you. So, yep, let us know. And oh my God, the shit in chat is going downhill. So I will conclude this with, it's not always poetry and we don't always agree, but we always keep it real. So until next week, everybody, please take care of each other. Be good to each other. We'll see you later.